A woman with size 11 big feet got stuck under the revolving door. Nearby, an obnoxious man was also trapped, shouting incessantly, not caring about her. The firefighters saw the woman's foot was already a bloody mess, but the man demanded they get him out first. A woman with size 11 big feet got stuck under the revolving door. Nearby, an obnoxious man was also trapped, shouting incessantly, not caring about her. The firefighters saw the woman's foot was already a bloody mess, but the man demanded they get him out first. The firefighters ignored him. The man started making a fuss.
On my section.
Hey, stop touching the glass, shut up and stand back!
The firefighters told the woman to protect her head, then smashed the glass with a hammer. Paramedics moved in to give the woman a painkiller. The man, pushing the revolving door frantically, caused the woman more pain.
Do that again, we'll leave you in there all day.
The firefighters cut through the door frame, freeing the woman's foot. Fortunately, it was just a flesh wound, with no bone damage. Paramedics stabilized her foot with a cardboard splint and rushed her to the hospital.
Hey! Let me out!
Annoyed by the man's shouting, the firefighter turned around and gave the wooden stopper a good hard kick. It was incredibly satisfying.
What the? Come on!
The girl went to ride the Ferris wheel, but it malfunctioned. Moreover, a worker below was trapped by a fallen gondola. She was extremely frightened, and her parents were anxiously waiting below.
Come on, Mom! Dad! Someone get me down!
The firefighters first rescued the trapped worker, but even with the ladder at its maximum height, they were still a bit short. The panicked girl kept shaking the gondola door. Luckily, the girl managed to crawl back inside. The firefighters brought in ladder, climbed up the aerial ladder, and extended the ladder to the gondola. The girl didn't dare to breathe. The firefighter slowly crawled over to her, calming her down, told her not to look down, reassuring her that he would protect her. The two slowly moved back along the ladder, but the girl was so nervous that she tripped. Fortunately, the well-trained firefighter used his strong arms to pull her back. Finally, they safely reached the ground. The girl was reunited with her parents, vowing never to go to an amusement park again. A child's head got stuck between the bars of a fourth-floor balcony railing, which was about to give way. The mother was using all her strength to hold him. Firefighters set up a ladder to rescue the child. Fortunately, a firefighter managed to stabilize the railing just in time. Meanwhile, another team member broke down the door to provide assistance, but the railing was too heavy. The firefighter hammered a hole into the doorframe, wedging in a hammer to secure the rope attached to the railing, stabilizing it. Then, they used a power saw to cut through the bars, successfully freeing the child. Just as they were about to take the child to the hospital, the mother insisted on not going. It wasn't until they arrived at the hospital that the doctor discovered the child had a history of abuse. It turned out that the abuser was the mother's ex-husband. The mother had lost custody due to her alcoholism. Now the mother has quit drinking. The paramedics finally felt reassured.
Thank you. We just needed to know who we were going to bat for.
The dough mixer twisted the man's hand into a U shape. Despite this, the man was more concerned about his carefully prepared dough. Firefighters first unplugged the machine. To prevent the man from going into shock, they administered an IV to maintain his vital signs. The firefighters unscrewed the machine's cover, but the densely packed gears would make disassembly time consuming. At this point, a team member discovered that the mixing paddle could be removed, but it required a specific angle. Ultimately, the firefighters decided to detach the mixing paddle along with the man's hand. As they turned the paddle, the man gritted his teeth and endured silently, showing remarkable fortitude. Soon, the mixing paddle was detached. The firefighters instructed the man to take deep breaths and then carefully extracted his injured hand, which was then promptly taken to the hospital. It's uncertain whether his hand will ever be able to knead dough again. A boy's ice skate blade was deeply lodged in his father's temple, leaving everyone around them in shock. Despite the pain, the father kept comforting his son, encouraging him to be strong. The paramedics checked the father, finding no cerebrospinal fluid in his ear, but knowing they needed to stabilize the skate first. They instructed the boy not to move.
Can you do that?
I don't know.
You can do it, boy.
Okay.
Carefully, the paramedics cut the laces of the skate. With their help, the boy managed to pull his foot out. The father sighed in relief, trying to stay calm as he told his son to leave. Watching his son run out of the ice rink, the father broke down. He didn't want to leave this world, especially with a young son and a beautiful wife. When the boy returned, the father quickly masked his pain and told his son not to worry. The paramedics secured him properly before placing him on the stretcher and transporting him to the hospital. A man had a tuning fork stuck in his eyeball but felt no pain at all. The paramedics were stunned by the sight, but the man calmly invited them in, not to save him, but to help his buddy. The man on the floor was unresponsive, with a very weak pulse. The reason for their fight was that the man had been singing out of tune. It turned out they were bandmates. Due to drug intake, they had lost control. That explained why the man didn't feel any pain. As the paramedics were about to intubate him, they noticed something odd. The man had half a corn dog lodged in his throat. It was clear that his bandmate had put it there. After removing the corn dog, the man began to recover. This left the paramedics utterly speechless. After working for 24 hours straight, a man dozed off and accidentally got his arm caught in a crusher. Paramedics cut off all power and administered painkillers. They tried to pull his arm out.
1, 2, 3.
Stop! I can't! Oh, God, I can't!
Firefighters decided to disassemble the machine and transport both the man and part of the machine to the hospital. They quickly took the machine apart, placed the man on a stretcher, and rushed him to the hospital. The man insisted on calling his boss to assure them that he could still make it to work the next day and not to fire him. What kind of job makes this man so dedicated? Or how much is his boss paying him? As the man calmed down from the anesthesia, firefighters started disassembling the machine parts from his hand. He was then taken to the emergency room. But why didn't they disassemble it right away and instead waited until they reached the hospital? A boy tried to take a shortcut by sliding down a straight ladder, but ended up getting impaled on it. It was hard to understand how he got pierced from underneath. By the time the rescue team arrived, he was convulsing in pain. They saw him trying to pull the ladder out of himself.
No, don't touch it.
They opted to do a simple bandage and connected him to a monitor, administering glucose to keep him alive until they could get him to the hospital. They realized he was losing a lot of blood and might have severed an artery as his blood pressure continued to drop. Firefighters secured the ladder and used a small saw to cut through it. After what felt like a year, the ladder's leg was finally severed, and the boy was successfully placed on a stretcher and rushed to the hospital. The boy's leg was caught in the axle of the train, but the firefighters could only watch, unable to approach and rescue him. They discovered that the tracks were carrying thousands of volts of electricity. They had to wait for the electricity company to cut the power. Not long before, the boy and his sister had sneaked out to play, but when the firefighters arrived, they found only the boy and no sign of his sister. The chief quickly instructed the team to search carefully for her. The power company had turned off the electricity, so the firefighters ran a test to be sure.
Go! Power's off!
The firefighters used a jack to lift the car to make room for the rescue. After some effort, they managed to pull the boy's leg out, and he was placed on a stretcher and taken to hospital. Meanwhile, the team searching for the boy's sister found some human tissue fragments in the tunnel. It was a heartbreaking moment. They had to accept such tragic realities.